Welcome back into Sports Memos, every game on the board college football podcast. We're breaking down them all. This is segment number 2 with MidMajor Matt at MidMajor Matt on Twitter. Matt, welcome into the pod. How are you?
I'm doing well, Drew. How are you?
I'm doing well as well. We got the Georgia State Panthers at the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, -5.5 at home, 64 the total. Starting off in the Sun Belt here, Matt. I know you know them well. You interested in getting involved with GSU versus Coastal Carolina?
Yeah, this is an interesting game because I was kicking myself. Last week I looked at Georgia State because it was a good situation for them against Arkansas State. Arkansas State's second game without their quarterback. And Georgia State's been a live dog this season. They've had some interesting results, and I didn't go through with it. This week they now go and hit the road against a Coastal Carolina team that loves to score points. 37 last week, or 2 weeks ago. They put up over 60 on UMass. They scored a bunch on Norfolk State. It feels like the Sun Belt now is kind of the over conference as opposed to when it used to be the Conference USA. It feels like this is the place where a lot of points get scored. I think I'm going to probably look at the over here. I would have looked at Georgia State in a better situation, but probably not. This one could see a lot of points scored.
Good stuff, Matt. To start off segment number 2, we had Joe Ranieri on first, and we'll have Robbie Vino up next, and then Teddy Covers on the back half. We break it down into 4 sections, 4 different handicappers from sportsmemo.com, getting all the games for Week 7 college football. Also simulcast on YouTube, Sports Memo YouTube channel, and the Wager Talk YouTube channel. Each and every week throughout college football season. We'll also be doing the NFL Every Game on the Board podcast on Fridays as well. Next up here, Matt, we got ACC matchup, Maryland at Purdue. That's Big Ten. I see Maryland, and I'm thinking years ago, Matt, but obviously not. I'm behind the times. We got the Terps laying 3.5, 53.5 the total in this Big Ten matchup.
Yeah, this is the injury bowl because if you look at both sides, you've got the Sindelar kid for Purdue is out. He has the broken, I believe, clavicle. You've got the Rondell Moore, who's their wide receiver. He's the number one guy they like to throw to. He's not playing. I think I saw a stat last week. They had 7 wide receivers, and 3 of the guys who were active hadn't actually played at the position in a game this year. They are at home, and then you've got a Maryland team with Josh Jackson coming in who's hurt. And he's done. He had that gruesome injury. The Pegram kid is going to start under center, it looks like, for the Terps. He's not exactly a guy I want to back in this one. He's had some ugly stats in the past. Remember, this Terps team in the past before Josh Jackson had a ton of trouble at quarterback. It's a high total here, but my question is, are the defenses that bad that they couldn't slow down the other attack? I don't know how much Purdue's going to score. Maryland has kind of tailed off a little bit. Yeah, they put up 48 on Rutgers, but I think a lot of people are going to put up 48 on Rutgers. So maybe you look at the under in this one and kind of hold your nose and hope that these two banged up offenses just kind of go at each other and don't score a lot of points.
So for Maryland, the quarterback position, you bring up Pygmy starting. He makes plays happen with his feet, though, right, Matt? There was some games where he did play well in the past.
Yeah, he last year he ran it about 58 times. He's mobile, but I don't think he's a great mobile. I think there's some guys who are more. He's one of these guys I feel like that he wants to run it before he wants to throw it. He doesn't have time in the pocket. He doesn't, if the first read's not there, he's going to go. And I don't know necessarily if that's going to fit in this offense. Now, maybe Josh Jackson showed some things, and the Loxley offense will be good for him too, but I don't know. I don't love either quarterback in this matchup. So, if you put my feet to the fire, I'd probably look at the under maybe in this one.
All right, good stuff starting off here. We got Iowa State at West Virginia, Big 12 matchup here. Cyclones laying doubles on the road here, Matt. We're seeing 10.5 pretty much across the board as we're talking right now. 53.5 the total.
Brock Purdy, it's Brocktober, right? Yeah. Whenever the calendar flips to October, Brock Purdy shows up. He did last week in the big win over TCU. There's no real look-ahead factor here. They're at Texas Tech in 2 weeks, so that's something to consider. On the West Virginia side, everybody loved West Virginia. They thought it was a situational play against Texas the week before the Red River Shootout. A lot of late points scored in that one, got them either close to the cover or they got you the cover. I don't love West Virginia. I don't love this Kendall kid. I think that they're a year away or 2 under Neil Brown, but I'm never going to lay that many points on the road with Iowa State in this one. If you force me to play it, I'd probably look at West Virginia, but this game won't be on my card.
A good one here in the Mountain West up next, Matt. Talking rotation number 139140, not to mention quote-unquote degenerate special of sorts. It's a 10:15 Eastern kick here, so a lot of tickets will be written on this game. And we have Hawaii on the mainland. We got the Rainbow Warriors at Boise State Broncos. 11.5 is pretty much the consensus number across the board right now, with a 60. Flat 60 is the total. Good one in the Mountain West, Matt. You interested in getting involved?
So this is if Hawaii can stay turnover-free, which has been an issue for them all year long. Granted, in the game against Nevada, they didn't have any turnovers, but that's going to be their bugaboo. Plus, Boise State is very good against the pass, and that's what Hawaii wants to do. How long can McDonald stay in the game? He's been pulled several times this year. And Hawaii's defense has some names. They've had one good trip to the mainland, one bad trip to the mainland when they got blown out at Washington. I'm not a guy who likes to back Hawaii when they make these road trips because – the time zone difference, and sometimes you see them struggle away from home. It's a big number in this one. Boise State has covered numbers like this in the past, and they're beating up teams. And the one thing to consider is they've got a road trip to BYU next week. That's a big game for them. Maybe they're not as focused, but even then, I still think they beat Hawaii.
Good stuff, Matt. We got Ball State at Eastern Michigan and Maction up next. 58 the total. I'll tell you, Matt, this Ball State team, they're a tough team. I wouldn't count them out. They are on the road here. Eastern Michigan, it's a team I haven't really bet much, but I'm leaning towards Ball State, and it looks like Eastern Michigan's laying one at home.
Yeah, Eastern Michigan's a team that I've been involved with several times. Once again, last week I liked Central Michigan, couldn't pull the trigger, and of course Central Michigan blew them out. Eastern Michigan's a tough team to figure out. I had Central Connecticut State back on September 21st. They covered that game easily. Eastern Michigan's got the edge here at quarterback. Glass and the quarterback at Ball State are pretty close to each other. Eastern Michigan doesn't have a great home field advantage. The only thing you know about them is that they've got that weird gray turf there, the gray and then the offset gray. Their defense isn't very good. Ball State coming in off a win in that game at Northern Illinois. Apparently they play for a weed or something, and it's the first time that they've won the weed or the whatever they call it in a long time. So Ball State was really happy. They were really emotional after this game. Second straight road trip. I, at this number, may look at Eastern Michigan as a spot play here, thinking Ball State got a little fat and happy after their win last week over in Northern Illinois.
So it's actually a rival trophy of sort in this game in Maction?
Ball State, Northern Illinois last week played for. It looked like a weed. I don't know what it was. It was a plant of some sort, a thicket. I don't know what it was, but it was something, and they got really happy about it. If you look up in Maction, there's a lot of weird trophies that are involved in some of these matchups, but I think Eastern Michigan, it could be the better team in this one, and at one point, I think I might take a shot on them at the spot.
All right, good stuff, Matt. And guys, he's MidMajor Matt, at MidMajor Matt on Twitter. Check out his packages at sportsmemo.com. Knows the small conferences, knows FCS as good as anybody. So if you're into betting that stuff, try out one of his packages. And actually, we have a podcast coupon code here on the pod. MMM69 at checkout for a 7-day all-access package, bringing it under $10 per day for MidMajor Matt's 7-day all-access pass. MMM69 at checkout is the coupon code for huge savings there at sportsmemo.com. He's also off of a 6-1 college football weekend, so big profits last weekend for MidMajor Matt. We got Old Dominion at Marshall, the Thundering Herd laying 15 at home. 47.5 the total here, Matt.
In theory, this is a get-right game for Marshall. They've lost their last two. They lost the big game to Cincinnati. And last week, it was really odd seeing them lose on the road to Middle Tennessee. This is not your dad's Middle Tennessee team, a.k.a. it's the post-Brent Stockstill team. A lot of things were thought about Marshall this year entering the year. They have, the quarterback play. The offense was supposed to go under Doc Holliday. The defense was supposed to be good enough in a conference that doesn't have a lot of good defenses, but they sit at 2-3. This is, a team with a lot of expectations. On the other side, ODU has lost 4 straight. They barely win their first game against Norfolk State. They then lose to Virginia Tech and Virginia. Unfocused spots for both teams. So they got the covers, but then people start thinking, well, maybe they're better than they are. Then they lose to East Carolina at home. Last week they were punchless against Western Kentucky. In theory, this is a get-right game for Marshall in terms of the offense should play better, the defense should play better. I think this could be an under here. ODU struggling to score right now. Marshall also has Florida Atlantic on the road the next Friday night, so therefore there could be a bit of an unfocused situation here, but I think this might be an under here because I don't know how many points ODU is going to score against this Marshall defense.
Oh, Matt, got to put you on the spot, man. Marshall at FAU next week, right?
Marshall at FAU next week. I mean, it depends. If they come out of this healthy, I'm guessing, well, you might have more experience in this. What do you think the line would be for that one next week?
That was going to be my question to you, but if you want to put me back on the spot, I'm going to say FAU -1.
Oh, man. At FAU -1, I might have to have them defending their home turf there. I mean, they're still a pretty good team themselves, and it depends on how confident Marshall comes out of this, any injuries or, how the quarterback play looks. We know what we're getting from FAU, but we're certainly not getting what we expected from Marshall this year.
So you'd go FAU, what, minus a touchdown? What are you thinking?
Oh, no. I'm just saying I'm bad at setting the line, so I would say it's probably like a 3.5, 4 type of situation, the dead number there, because you figure people are going to want to bet Marshall. I mean, neither of these teams are public outside of the people who know Lane Kiffin, so I figure they would set the number maybe small enough to get people to bet on Florida Atlantic, and then the sharps come in and take Marshall. I don't know. I'm not good at that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason I would look to bet FAU. That's why I made him. But I made it so low because I thought that more people would be on Marshall. Heck, who knows? Could be wrong. We'll find out next Sunday when Circa releases the lines right here in Las Vegas, Nevada. We got New Mexico State up next. Yeah, looking at numbers 145, 146 if you're following along at home. 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific kick here. We got New Mexico State at Central Michigan. The Chippewas laying 10.5 at home. 58 the total here, Matt.
Chippewas coming up, a huge win over their rival Eastern Michigan, 42-16 last time out. The big news, though, this week, quarterback David Moore suspended for illegal substances. Now, they're trying to appeal it. Who knows if he'll be ready. Dormady, the Tennessee transfer, was on the sidelines last week, was at practice. They think he's getting close. I don't know if this will expedite things a little bit for him because they need to figure this out at quarterback. This is an odd placement for a game. It's homecoming. It's kind of in the middle of MAC play. We know how bad New Mexico State is. I mean, New Mexico State has gotten blasted by most of the teams they've played. They lost by 51 to Washington State. They lost by 52 to Alabama. They lost by 21 to San Diego State. I mean, they've got a decent offense with the Atkins kid, but their defense isn't very good. It's a weird placement for a game, this one, and I don't know if I can bet it until I figure out who's under center, because if it's Dormady, they should be able to blow the doors off. If it's not Dormady and it's not Moore and it's some other kid, then I don't know if I can play this game.
All right, interesting stuff there at CMU with the quarterback position. Minus 10.5 is the number in that one. Heading out to the Pac-12, we got Washington State at Arizona State. Looks like 59 being the total, and pretty much a pick'em price, seeing -1 Arizona State at home under Herm Edwards. This is Herm Edwards versus Mike Leach here, MidMajor Matt. Good coaching matchup.
Yes, it is. And the big question is, what's Washington State going to do? Their defensive coordinator, Tracy Clady's resigning last week. And so I was reading some tweets and stuff on the game, and they said that they have drastically changed their defensive depth chart for this one. It's something you don't necessarily want to do in the middle of the week or in the middle of the season, certainly, because you are what you are. You recruited who you thought was going to be their system. I like the Daniels kid for Arizona State. I like what they've done, and Herm Edwards has proven to be a better coach than I thought he was. I thought the hire was kind of ludicrous, and last year they proved me wrong, and they already beat Michigan State this year. I'll be interested to see how Arizona State's defense matches up against the Gordon kid, because he's been a revelation. I thought that the Guberud kid from the FCS level was going to win. He doesn't win. Gordon gets the job. He's been fantastic this year. Both teams coming off a bye. I'll be really interested and can see why this is a really short number in this one.
Let's stay in the Pac-12. Mid-major, Matt, we got Utah at Oregon State. 59 the total. The Utes laying 2 touchdowns on the highway.
Last week I had Oregon State. That one won easily. They were very impressive against UCLA. They've been very impressive the past couple of weeks, beating Cal Poly. That's not a terrible FCS school. The loss to Stanford, they tried to come back late, and they couldn't do it. Oregon State's been very good this year. And, at home, they're not a terrible look here, but you got a Utah team coming off a bye week. They're very focused. They're a more veteran bunch. They've got a better defense. I'm looking here to see. There's no real look-ahead factor. They've got Arizona State at home. As I said, and this is my theme, Utah's clearly the better team, but I'm never going to tell anybody to lay 2 touchdowns on the road, especially with a live offense. The Luton kid is good. They've got a very good wide receiver in Oregon State. I don't love their defense, but, Utah's offense has been very hit or miss this season. So it's probably home dog or pass for me in this one. As I said, I'll never lay that many points on the road with the better team. Backdoors happen way too often with stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Utah, I don't want them in this price range anyway, especially Oregon State has looked good of recent. We got Washington at Arizona as we finish off the triple pack here in Pac-12 play. Washington, the Huskies laying 6 on the highway, 59 the total.
2 losses already in the Pac-12 for Washington. Very surprising because I think a lot of people thought, and I'm sure the odds were them and Utah and Oregon as the top 3 teams to win this conference. They can't afford to slip up once again. Arizona's got Khalil Tate, in a league that's seen so many quarterbacks go down. Tate was injured and banged up. There was a lot of talk this week about Washington having to slow down Tate because Washington's had a little bit of an issue this year with teams that run the ball. I think Washington is going to play better in this game. It's a tough atmosphere against Arizona. Khalil Tate, is a very big wild card here. Once again, much like the other game, it's a shorter number. I'd look probably to the home dog in this one or probably sit this one out because I can't trust Washington right now. They just haven't played good football.
Let's head to a cross-division matchup here in the SEC, Matt. We got Ole Miss Rebels at the Missouri Tigers. Looks like Missouri laying 12 in Columbia, 56.5 being the total.
Missouri is going to be a different team without Kelly Bryant. That injury, however you thought about when it happened and if it was dirty or not, they're going to be a different team. The Troy game went about as we expected, 42-10. Missouri got the win. The defense played better. I think a lot of people thought that was going to be an over. Missouri this year has played surprisingly good defense. During this 4-game home stretch so far at home, 7 to West Virginia, 0 to Southeast Missouri, 14 to South Carolina, and 10 to Troy. So they know what they're doing, and this is an Ole Miss team that's put up better offensive numbers, but not exactly against the better competition. They only scored 20 against Cal. They only scored 10 against Memphis way back in week 1. I don't trust this Mississippi offense on the road, but we also don't know what Missouri's going to look at without Kelly Bryant. This could be an under, too, if you think that Ole Miss maybe slows down Missouri and you think the Tigers miss a beat without Kelly Bryant.
Yeah, and in Ole Miss, the quarterback situation, they're giving Plumlee a chance to take some snaps over Corral, so it's kind of both teams, Matt, with, what's going on at the quarterback position, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And when you have stuff like that, it makes it harder to bet these games because maybe the backup is better. Now, in Kelly Bryant's situation, your backup's probably not better. But in Ole Miss, maybe the guy that they, put out there is better. And so there's a lot of uncertainty. And as we say, and I've seen the comments that we get on these YouTube things, and they're like, well, make a pick on every game. Well, there's so many games out there. You don't have to pick every game. You can just go and cherry pick things. As I said, I'm a mid-major guy, so I don't look as much as the SEC. I do some research for the podcast like this, but I cherry pick the games that I want to play. And so I don't have to have an opinion on every game. I'll give you the facts and I'll give you what I know, but there doesn't have to be a pick in every game.
Hey, we got 2 advantages at sports, in being the sports bettor anyway over the book. It's what to bet and how much to bet. So, no, you don't have to bet each and every game, but we do have an SEC East matchup here. Used to be a rivalry. I guess we could call it a rivalry of sorts. We got the Gamecocks from South Carolina at the Georgia Bulldogs. This one in Athens, Georgia, Sanford Stadium. Bulldogs laying 24 in the hook at home, 52.5 the total, Matt.
Georgia is coming off the 43-14 win against Tennessee. South Carolina coming off an effort where they're coming off a bye week. They beat Kentucky 24-7. I think the Helinski kid is having what you would think for a rookie starter. He's having some good efforts. He's having some bad efforts. I don't necessarily love him going into Georgia. That's for sure. He looked like a true rookie in his home game against Alabama. This is a huge number. Georgia is in kind of a name-your-score situation. They've got to start getting the sexy points for the playoffs and stuff like that. So I could see them running up the score on South Carolina. Once again, there's better games on the board, but this is a big number for a reason. Georgia is just that much better than South Carolina right now.
Another SEC matchup here, Matt. Mississippi State at Tennessee. Seeing the SEC West team laying 7 on the road in Knoxville, 53 the total here.
Have to wonder what Tennessee's mindset is. Last week they played, I believe they scored the first touchdown against Georgia. The Rocky Top was blaring. Everybody was rocking in Tennessee. And then all of a sudden the bottom fell out and they lost 43-14. They've lost 2 straight. They've only got 1 win this year. I could see why the 7 is there because there's just not a lot of talent in Tennessee. And there's, quarterback issues there. They're not getting good defense right now. So, this is a team I don't want to back. But then again, you've got a Mississippi State team that's lost 2 of their last 3. They didn't look good at Auburn. They lost at home to Kansas State. They haven't played great themselves. these are two teams that I don't necessarily want to back right now because I just don't like what I'm seeing from either of them.
Guys, we got 2 games left. He's MidMajor Matt at MidMajor Matt on Twitter, and we got the coupon code MMM69 at checkout for a 7-day all access at sportsmemo.com. He's off of a 6-1 weekend in college football, so seeing it well of late, and you can get his full week service, 7-day all access, sportsmemo.com. Using the coupon code MMM69. That's MidMajor Matt's favorite number at the end there, MMM69 at checkout. 7-day all-access package at sportsmemo.com. We got 2 action games to finish it off here. Saturday action, Kent State at the Akron Zips. 57 the total, minus 14 in the hook. That's Kent State laying on the road.
Akron is probably the worst team in the country. Maybe it's them and New Mexico State. We kind of decided that 2 weeks ago when they lost by 8 at UMass, 37-29. They've had a bye week. Sometimes I like to play some of these bad teams off bye weeks. They get to refresh themselves. They get to figure things out and, take a breath a little bit. Was reading about how the quarterback situation is a little bit up in the air with Akron. They're not sure if Cato Nelson's going to play in this one. If he does, that makes a difference. But the Zips team at home lost 31-20 to UAB. They lost 35-7 to Troy. But can you really lay this many points with Kent State? Granted, they've had some success. They're coming off the 48-0 loss to Wisconsin, so they're going to be a little banged up. They're going to be a little, weary after a game like that. They did blast Bowling Green 62-20 a couple weeks ago. They beat Kennesaw State, so they have 2 wins on the season. Kent State, the more talented team, but do you ever feel that comfortable laying that many points on the road with a squad like this? It's very capable of laying an egg, certainly in Akron.
Yeah, Akron's not a very good team at all, but I'm with you. It's tough to lay more than 2 touchdowns here on the road with not a very good team. We got last game up for this section, then we'll bring Robbie Vino in for section number 3. And guys, this is the college football Every Game on the Board podcast, doing it each and every week throughout football season at sportsmemo.com. We got Northern Illinois at Ohio. The Bobcats, seeing the Bobcats minus 6.5 in Athens, Ohio. 50.5 the total.
Bobcats coming off the overtime win in Buffalo. This is homecoming for Ohio. They've been a massive disappointment themselves. 2-3. I think you and I may have done a podcast on the MAC East before the season began, and we said basically Ohio's going to run away with this thing. They've got the talent. They're the Rourke kid. They've got Frank Solich as head coach. There's a lot of reasons to like Ohio, but the offense hasn't worked, and the defense has struggled at times this year. They host Northern Illinois team, who has been the class of the MAC for a lot of years. But as we said, they're 1-4 under their new head coach, Thomas Hammock. The one thing that's consistent with this team is their defense. They've played defense so far this year. It's the offense, as usual, letting them down. Bowers, the Cal transfer, has looked good at times. They scored 2 quick touchdowns against Ball State last week, and then it kind of dried up, and everything went downhill from there. Usually when I see numbers in the 50s when it comes to Northern Illinois, I like to take the under because I know how inconsistent their offense is, but the defense shows up time after time. The first half of last week's game, they had one of their top players out because of a targeting penalty the previous game. He'll play the full game most likely here. Whenever the total's this high on Northern Illinois, I usually lean to the under because their defense is good, but their offense is very suspect.
Matt, great stuff as always, man. I know you were at ACC Media Day, correct, for college basketball just this past week?
Yeah, ACC Basketball Media Day earlier this week, and certainly had a chance to talk to coaches and players as part of my job with ESPN Radio in Richmond, and really looking forward to that. And we'll start getting into some basketball. It's really odd timing for college basketball, it feels like. They're coming up in about a month or so, and we'll still be in the heat of the NFL and college football seasons. But you better believe we'll have plenty of mid-major, non-Power 5 plays for college basketball this year.
Absolutely. And, Matt, good stuff, as always, on the Every Game on the Board podcast. We'll bring in Robbie Vino here shortly. Guys, remember the podcast coupon code, MMM69 at checkout. $69 for his 7-day all-access package at sportsmemo.com. Best of luck to you, MidMajor Matt, this weekend. We'll have you on next week. And, guys, we'll be right back with Robbie Vino.